Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today. For this one we are going to do yet another malt review, and we're going to do, if memory serves me correctly, my first Highland whisky review for you here on the channel. And I'm really excited to do this one because I know this is a good whisky. I've tasted this one before, but I'm really looking forward to doing a little bit more of a kind of in-depth tasting and thinking about it. So for this one we're going to go to the northernmost distillery on the Scottish mainland. We're going to Wick and we're having a taste of a whisky from the old Pulteney Distillery. This one is their 12-year-old single malt, and as I said, I know this is a really kind of nice whisky. This one, it's got a little bit of citrusy character, a little bit of kind of sweetness to it as well. So like I say, very curious and very excited to do a little bit more of an in-depth tasting on this one. And as always, I hope you guys enjoy my take on this whisky. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the distillery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the distillery website and the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do from Old Pulteney in the future. Very first time I'm reviewing one of their whiskies, of course. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. You'll find craft beer, whiskey, and also some sake in there as well. I like to review all three of those. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers, breweries, whiskies, sakes, all of these kind of things that you'd like me to review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the channel, and the support that you show it is hugely appreciated. And don't forget to check out the playlists of beers and things like that from different countries. The whole channel has a tagging system based on geography, so you can search for stuff in your local area and things like that. But anyway, to tell you a little bit about the Old Pulteney Distillery then, onto my distillery notes. So the Old Pulteney Distillery was opened by James Henderson back in 1826 in Wick, and this was at a time when the town was really enjoying a herring fishing boom. There was loads of fishing boats and things like that. But at this time Wick actually had no road links, and so the distillery was relying on their barley supplies coming by sea and also sending their whisky back out again the same way. But later in 1922 the distillery was bought by James Watson, and in 1926 there was actually a vote that I think was organised by the clergy that meant Wick would become a dry town, and all alcohol licences were revoked until 25 years later in 1951. At this point the distillery was then bought by Robert Bertie Cumming, who was a solicitor from Banff, but the ownership changed once again in 1955 to James and George Limited, and the distillery underwent a major refurbishment from 1958. The visitor centre that they have today apparently was the old floor maltings, but this was decommissioned as part of that refurbishment project. After a while the distillery ended up under the ownership of Allied Domenech, who then sold it on again in 1995 to its current owners, which is Inverhouse Distillers. In 1997 they launched the Old Pulteney 12-year-old, which is this whisky here, and over the following years they've released a few different things. Like the 17-year-old was released sometime in the 2000s. I want to say it was 2007 that they released that. But they've been releasing new age varieties of the whiskies over the last couple of years, and doing different things as well. From what I gather, this one is aged in ex-bourbon casks actually. So I think a lot of their aging that they do is in ex-bourbon casks. And this distillery as well are particularly known for sponsoring maritime events and explorers and things like that. They explored Jock Wishart, who had a single-man rowing boat or whatever it was, and went all the way up to the North Pole. And they also sponsored the Old Pulteney Clipper, which was a yacht that sailed all the way around the world as well. So in this kind of, it's kind of like a sort of ode, if you like, to the kind of maritime nature and the maritime economy that Wick had for many years. It's actually a pretty little town. You know, the Highlands is very pretty. Wick and Thurso are very nice. I've been up there with my dad on a couple of occasions, and it's a nice place. The people are nice. Go up there and visit it and have a little look, but you need to choose your time, because either the midges are going to get you in the summer, or you'll freeze from the wind basically in the winter. But yeah, very nice town, and they've got their own distillery, and like I say, it's very cool to be able to review one of the whiskies from the northernmost distillery in Scotland for you here on the channel. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about the distillery just now. We'll get rid of the distillery notes and we'll get on to the tasting of this one itself. Thank you for this review as well to Hannah and Matthias, who lent me this whisky to have a little taste of. Of course, as I've told you with the whisky reviews on the channel, I really rely on people, you know, lending me their bottles and things like that, because if I bought a whole bottle of whisky, you know, it would last me for absolute years. It would be very expensive to run a whisky review channel, unless, you know, you're working in a shop like Ralphie or the guys at whisky.com and things like that. But yeah, there you can see one of these old Wick fishing boats there, the Maritime Malt. You can see there's the top of it there. That's also, you've got this little kind of golden top there as well. It also shows you on the back where Wick actually is. Like I said, I always say that Scotland looks like a monster's head, and this is almost just up right on the tip of his kind of Elvis flick or Mohican, or however you want to describe that. But it says on the back here, the Pulteney Distillery lies on the rugged coast of Scotland, and it is the northernmost distillery on the mainland. Established in the port of Wick in 1826, this fine single malt is steeped in seafaring history. Back then, the windswept distillery was only accessible by sea, and as one of the busiest herring ports in the world, many of the distillery workers were also hardy fishermen. Today, Old Pulteney Highland single malt Scotch whisky is created using the same traditional methods of the 1800s. The copper wash still in particular is a source of fascination to visitors due to the absence of a swan neck. Legend has it that when the still was delivered, it was too tall for the still house, and the manager simply decided to cut the top off. This shape, known as a smuggler's kettle, contributes to the distinctive style of the whisky, and it's also influenced the unique shape of the bottle. The Old Pulteney 12-year-old is matured in hand-selected American ex-bourbon casks, and over the years the casks gently absorb the northern sea breeze, giving the whisky its smooth, complex flavours and coastal characteristics. It's little wonder that the Old Pulteney is known as the maritime malt. So yeah, really nice little text on this one. So let's get it out and we'll get on with a tasting then. So yeah, I'll just let you have a little look at the bottle as well. The inside of this one, incidentally, also has some nice artwork. You can see the star and things like that in there. But yeah, I really like this. I like this bottle, this one. This was one that my dad always said that he enjoyed. He really likes this whisky too. But yeah, nice looking bottle. I like the little, you can see the little top thing there. That also has the navigation star on there too. But yeah, nicely presented one. It's got Malcolm Waring, who is the distillery manager. But yeah, let's get a little bit of this into the glass and we'll get on with the tasting then. Really looking forward to this, as I mentioned. There we go. Lovely nice amber colour this one as well, I would say. That'll do for the moment, I'm sure. And there we go. I'll tell you something, when you open this one up you really can smell a nice little bit of a kind of, it's almost like a lemon limey citrus or something like that that's coming out of this one. So yeah, as you can see, this this whisky is a sort of, it's quite a rich amberish colour, this one. I've seen ones that are a lot paler than that, and I would say that the best descriptor for this is a nice sort of rich amber colour. Pretty clear as well, you know, you'd always expect that from a whisky. But yeah, nice looking one this. I don't know if Old Pulteney use colourants and things like that, but I would suspect that it would be quite natural, this one. I think most distilleries try to avoid using colourants in their whiskies and stuff like this. But yeah, lovely looking whisky. So let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one. As I said, a little bit of a nice kind of lemon limey sort of thing was coming out of this one as you open it up. But yeah, oh, that does smell really nice. So yeah, straight away with this one you get this sort of big lemon limey quality coming out of this straight away. It's very sharp in its citrus note, I would say. Underneath that you can definitely pick up that there's an element of a kind of saltiness to this one. Yeah, and you know, when it's right next to the sea, they're saying that the salt does play an influence on the, you know, the aging process of their casks. You can detect that right away in the aroma of this one, really. I like how this is going together. But yeah, for me, still recovering from a cough that I had recently. But for me, it has a little bit of a kind of brown sugary note underneath. I think there's a little touch of a kind of toffee note in there. You can pick up some of these nice oaky notes as well. I don't know if it's quite vanilla, but it definitely has a little bit of an oaky note to it as well. Nice oaky vanilla. I don't think it's vanilla. I think it's just more of a kind of woody note that's coming out of this one. So I would say it's quite forthright in that almost lemon limey citrusy character. There's a little bit of the kind of brown sugar in there. It almost reminds me a little bit of like you know, it's almost like a kind of vanilla toffee, something like that, like Thornton's vanilla toffee. So yeah, take some time and just enjoy the aroma of this, because it is absolutely lovely. You can definitely detect some saltiness in this one too, which is nice. Woody notes, a little bit of brown sugar as well. Yeah, and as your nose adjusts to it, I would say, you know, when you have this one out a little bit and you let it open up, the sort of citrusy notes, those sharper citrusy notes, are kind of, you know, they're just going down a little bit. I've heard, my friend was telling me that he thought this one had a nice little balance of smokiness in it as well. Like, it wasn't too sweet and it wasn't too smoky. So I'm very curious to see. I don't remember there being a smokiness from this whisky when I had it before. I remember this one being a slightly more citrusy whisky, which the aroma indeed suggests. But yeah, it smells absolutely lovely, this one. One of the sharper whiskies I've come across actually, but it's got a really nice level of complexity to it. So yeah, just take a little bit of time, as I always say, and enjoy the aroma before you actually get stuck into it. You know, that's always half the experience when it comes to craft beers, whiskies, sakes and things like that. It's always half the experience with the alcohol, plus, you know, you get a good bit of fumes off this one. But yeah, let's get stuck into this then. Let's have a taste of it. This is the Old Pulteney 12-year-old single malt Highland Scotch whisky. Let's get stuck into this. Really curious just to see how it turns out again. Ooh, yeah. I really like how this one kind of goes together. I'm finding this one's very, very warming, but you know, most whisky is. It will give you this nice warming feeling through your chest. But yeah, I would say that this one, it's definitely becoming. I can feel the middle of my palate really becoming more and more, just becoming gradually more sweet. There's definitely a sort of brown sugary element to this one. In the middle of the palate there, you can definitely pick up that nice little bit of sweetness in there. I want to say, the further forward you come on your palate as well, there's almost a bit of a woodiness in there. Yeah, I would stick with that. As I say, centre of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of a sort of toffee-ish. It reminds me a lot of the kind of Thornton's toffee, actually, or maybe a little bit of, I don't know if it's quite butterscotch. It is more of a kind of toffee, so it's slightly sweeter than that. I don't know, it's not quite as strong as caramel or something, but it's got this nice brown sugary element in the middle of the palate too. I would say it reminds me really of Thornton's toffee. And the further forward you come on your palate, I think there's a more kind of woody, oaky note coming out of this. In the very centre, if you just go across to the centre of the very centre of your palate towards the front, I think there's some kind of nutty notes coming out of there as well. The further into the aftertaste you go too, I think there's a wee element of vanilla coming out of this one. This one, to me, it's a sort of good balance between a sweet and a citrusy whiskey. I think that's a good kind of balance with this. I think it's fair to say this is somewhere between a sweet and a more citrusy whiskey. But yeah, I do like this one. As I said, this is one of my dad's favourites. He really likes this. So I can see exactly why he was saying that I should try this one. But yeah, really, really nice. So otherwise, on the fruity side of things, as I say, the aroma, it's got this really sort of quite strong citrusy kind of lemon limey note. And I've never come across a whiskey that's been like that before. Yeah, if you just if you just pay attention to the very front tip of your tongue, I think there is a good bit of that citrusy kind of lemon limey note coming out of this one. One thing you really can detect with this as well is that saltiness. There is just an element of a kind of salty aspect to this beer. I think it's almost just like salt water. I don't know if you can call it out from my chemistry days. I'm trying to remember if you would call that brine. But I don't know if it's brine, from what I remember, was always a man-made solution of salty water, but you know, that will affect the cathode. These things sit for years, and you can get all these infusion things. Surface chemistry, of course, is a very, very slow process, and a lot of it is, you know, you're talking about solid state chemistry. You've only got one surface rather than multiple surfaces that can where all these reactions can take place. So if they're reusing casks and things, which I assume they are, you know, it's really going to affect the flavour. When you can detect a little bit of that saltiness, it's almost like the whole middle of your palate where those brown sugary notes, the kind of toffee notes that I was talking about, are coming out. You can really feel the whole thing is just infused with that sort of salty quality, and it's nice. It really works for it, actually, and it's almost a little bit like, some of the whiskies I've had have been a little bit spicy, but that saltiness that this one has, it's really just a kind of change of pace, if you like, which is quite nice. Yeah, I just like how this one goes together. It's you know, all these whiskies, you know, the flavour scope of whiskey, I think, is it's very different. You know, I've reviewed craft beer for years. The scope of flavours that you get from whiskey is very, very different. It's almost, you get some really, really interesting flavours there, and it's almost, you're focusing completely on the malt, and it's kind of fascinating how you can get with these, you know, you'll get all these different fruitinesses, sort of fruity characters depending on the malt, and it's all about the barrel aging kind of thing in there as well. The way the vanilla, I am finding the further into the aftertaste with this one you go, the more and more vanilla flavours come out, and I really like the way the saltiness is in this whiskey too. And like I say, that nice little citrusy edge that you have on the front tongue and the front part of your palate there is really nice as well. It's almost got like a teeny bit of aromaticity or something to it as well, and I think that's the kind of salt and the citrus sort of combining here. But like I say, this is a really, really nice whiskey. I like how everything's going together with this one. So let's focus on the mouth a little bit then. So yeah, as I was saying earlier, it comes in quite smooth. It has a little touch of sharpness in the beginning, and then it just smooths out a little bit later. And I'm finding this one's getting sweeter and sweeter the further into the aftertaste you go. It just continues to smooth out, and you've got a little bit of a kind of, as I say, there's almost a little, the salty and citrusy flavours combine in this one. It's almost got a little bit of an aromaticity to it, this whiskey for me. And you can just feel that kind of comes out a little bit more in the aftertaste as well. You can feel that just right on the edges of your palate as well. But like I say, this is just, it's really nice. All of these whiskies, of course, are very good. They wouldn't do well if they weren't good whiskies. And it's very, very cool to see something where usually they are using just one type of malt, but yet they manage to get all of these different flavours out of it. It's a very, very different game from craft beers and stuff like that, like I'm used to reviewing. But I really like how this one goes together, and it's interesting to see as well that different flavours that you get often in beer come out on the same point of your palate, which is really interesting too. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this one. So if you get the chance to try this, I highly recommend that you do. I think a good way to summarise this, like I said, is it's got a good balance between it being a kind of citrusy whiskey, but it's also got a good little bit of sweetness the further into the aftertaste you go. So very, very well balanced. And yeah, hopefully I can try some of the older whiskies from Old Pulteney as well. But this one, really, really nice, and I'm glad that I was able to review it for you. So I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on this one. I always enjoy doing these malt reviews. It's something different compared to the craft beer, and you know, you will see some sake reviews at some point fairly soon as well. But yeah, let's leave it at that. So this one was the Old Pulteney, 12 years old, single malt Highland Scotch whisky from Wick back at home in Scotland. Really, really nice, this one. If you like a nice kind of citrusy whisky, it'll be right up your street. If you like it to be a little bit sweeter, it's also got that edge to it. And it's also got a little bit of unique quality to it as well, with that kind of salty character that it has too. So have a go at it for yourself and just see what you think. I think this is really, really nicely done. So yeah, let's leave it at that. This is the Old Pulteney 12 from Wick in the Highlands in Scotland. Thank you again for watching. I hope you've enjoyed another malt review, and you will see more over the next little while. Thank you again to Hannah and Matthias for lending me this bottle to review for you here on the channel. Until the next time, it's Landry just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Skål.